Well, hi again, everybody, and welcome to another episode of 100 Yards of Football. And this is our draft prospect show. And along with Logan Landers, our producer and engineer, is our co-host and founder, Vincent Turner. And Vincent, I've got a tear in my eye. I'm about ready to need a Kleenex tissue because this is going to be the last of the draft prospects that we have going into this 2020. The next thing you know, the draft itself is going to be taking place. And we're not going to get to talk about prospects anymore because they're already going to be drafted, or at least they're going to be signed in as free agents. So this is a graduation, so to speak, going from one end of the off season to another. And we get to start our show today with the last of the Mohicans, and that's Josh Simmons, the gigantic tackle out of Ohio State.
Well, we having the last prospect is probably maybe the best offensive tackle in the draft if you wouldn't got hurt this past season. But I would say this, tomorrow night is going to be a special night for me. I think that going into this, we're going to have a very special 3-hour draft show. We're going to be covering the first round. And I will say it'll be the most talented team that I've ever been with going in doing a project like this. And it's been a great ride throughout I want to say, pre-draft season with you, Mr. Harper LeBel, our producer, Mr. Logan Landers. Then we got a special talent in Brian LeBel joining us. So we're going to do what we always do. We're going to put on a good product tomorrow night. And I would say this, you're going to get a lot of information. You're going to get a lot of numbers. You're going to get a lot of history. But most of all, when you leave our draft podcast, you're going to say those guys were very put together and very prepared. Back to you, Mr. Harper LeBel.
Well, appreciate that. There's so much work that needs to be done, and it seems like it's constantly changing. And Josh Simmons is an example of that. You know, you've got a guy that, because of his injury during the middle of the season, he gets hurt against Oregon, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, what's going to happen with this guy? But he is evidently impressed enough of the doctors, the trainers, and the personnel directors to be able to move back into the first round. There's some folks that say he might go late in the first round, but more than that, he's ranked number 14 or 15, depending on your draft site right now, as one of the top players in this draft class. So he's big, he's fast, he's got an aggressive punch. But let's go a little bit into Josh Simmons. He's a California kid out of San Diego, went to Madison High School and then Helix. Now, Helix High School, that's where Bill Walton went. There's a lot of other great athletes, but he's one of the ones. I went with Dan Hammerschmidt. Nobody knows him, but he was a teammate of mine with Colorado State. He was at Helix High as well. He was a 4-star athlete and committed to San Diego State, went there for a while, but took his talents a little bit east and a little bit north of San Diego and ends up at Ohio State. What a great fit he was for them. He started 26 consecutive games, Vincent, before he got hurt, but just a big-bodied guy, a hard worker, and someone that you would want on your offensive line. He obviously fits the bill with his size, with his speed, with his talent, and his athleticism.
If he wouldn't have got hurt this season in the Oregon game, he would be the number 1 offensive tackle coming off the board. You could go back to 2023, go back to this Notre Dame game film. Michigan State game film in 2023, Penn State game film in 2023, and Michigan game film in 2023. You'll see why right now that I say he would probably and would have been the number 1 tackle. This is a very skilled young man at this tackle position with great size. And you're right, Harper, when I was doing my research on him, I didn't even think he was a California kid. But you look at all the great offensive linemen that came out of Ohio State, from John Hicks to Orlando Pace, to Jim Parker, to Nick Mango, to Charles Bentley, Bill Willis, 1944. This guy might be the best of all of them. And I'm putting a stamp on that. That's how good he is. And you think about over the last 2 years, Ohio State has had a lot of football talent on both sides of the ball. And everybody was talking about Trayvon Henderson and Jeremiah Smith, all those great players, but this guy, pound for pound, was probably the best player on the team. And then you look at his skill set. A day 1 starter if he's healthy. There's no question about it in my mind. Blend of powers, offensive tackle, A+. Athletic, A+. Brute strength, A+. Great leverage, A+. Footwork outstanding A+. And that's what all the great ones does when they play at that level. Willie Roth, Walter Jones, Jackie Slater, Jonathan Ogden, and Rosie Brown. Back to you, Harper.
Yeah, got some. Drop the mic, right? What else does he do that would be impressive? Well, he benched 225 pounds in the combine. He got 34 times. He ran a 4.15, which is probably a little bit slow for a guy who's 332 pounds. He dropped a little bit of weight. He's about 317 right now. He was ranked at 87.9 out of 100 in terms of overall a level. One of the fun things about him, there were a bunch of Joshes that were in the same offensive line room. So the linemen themselves came up with nicknames, and his nickname was Jimmy. So even though it's Josh, everyone said Jimmy, and there's a Josh Simmons would answer. Other guys would have different nicknames, but all the Joshes, they had a little bit of fun with one another. But that knee injury came after, like I said a moment ago, 26 sacks, and 26 consecutive games, and he had not given up a sack up to that point in the season. So everyone knew how good he was. His lateral movement, as you mentioned, his ability to protect against a fast edge or a power edge, great combination guy where he will hit the tackle and work his way up to the linebacker. His devastating first punch that he has, everybody has said that that's amazing. His ability to communicate with the guard is something that his coaches and even his teammates have expressed is something that he does well. He's a talker, in other words, and he communicates, hey, you got him. No, I got him. No, here, watch a blitz. Just little things like that he does at the highest level. He's great against a bull rush. He eliminates a lot of threats that you would have defensively if you're going against the screen. All the little things that a lineman does. This is a guy that is a first rounder, and as you said, he's a plug and play type guy. He basically, it doesn't matter what team he's going to go to, he's going to make them better.
One thing, as I just mentioned, is very a high level that you've got to play offensive tackle in the National Football League. That's why they get paid a lot of money. And it's protecting the best player on the team, the quarterback position. This young man, like I said, early on in the year and last season, I don't think there's no better offensive tackle in the country. Unfortunately, he got hurt in that Oregon game. And I'm just surprised he kind of fell off a little bit, had somewhat a serious knee injury. But I'm telling you, here on 100 Yards of Football today, if this gentleman is healthy, as I say, he can be trusted on the island with AA pluses. He is that good. He is that good a talent. And to play at Ohio State at that level, and in my mind, outside of injury, you're still the best offensive tackle in the 2025 NFL draft. That's saying a lot. And then you've been a transfer from San Diego State and coming in and playing against the best of the best. Think about that. This young man transferred in from San Diego State and took the metal by his hammer and became the best offensive lineman on the field. I don't have to say anymore. Back to you, Mr. Harper LeBel.
Well, then he'd be the number one guy in the draft if that were the case, but he's not. So there are a couple things that we want to look at. What are some weaknesses or some negatives that he has? One of them is that knee injury. We just don't know. I don't, Vincent. I know you weren't there. We don't know what the doctors have seen and how severe it is, or how quickly he's able to respond to get back on at that level. Is he a guy that's going to, when you draft him, he's going to have to sit and watch for the first week or month, or maybe all throughout all your mini camps, maybe even in training camp? I just don't know that. But I'm sure the teams that are looking to draft him, they've figured all that stuff out. They don't know exactly the extent of the damage in a way that they probably should. And I don't certainly understand it. So I know how important it is for that to be a decision maker. So it may be a second round for a guy like that. There are times when you watch him on the field and an outside 9 fast guy that he goes against has a chance to beat him. So there are some things that he has. He has a lot of penalties. He had 25 penalties in the last 2 seasons. So he's averaging right about 1 per game. There are times as a runner when you're running that he'll miss a guy. He just won't make contact with him, and he'll miss the guy, go around him because he's so big. If I were playing defense, Vincent, you'd want to go around him, right? So he has that happen a lot to where his feet and his technique are going to hit you where you are. But when you move, sometimes he misses a guy. And then obviously the critics are going to say, look, he got hurt at the most important time. You know, they didn't play against Penn State. He didn't play against Michigan. He wasn't in any of those games. He is a national champion and will always be one for the rest of his life, but he missed some big games. And if those are the only criticisms that you have, that's really not a whole lot of evidence, right? I'm not going to change my mind about, I think he's able to play. You can't change my mind to say that he's not. I think he's going to help any offensive line in the National Football League. You haven't been able to change my mind. The only thing is the severity of the injury. Obviously, it's been looked at by enough people to where they keep moving him back and putting him a little bit higher in the draft rather than going in the other direction.
I think that's the biggest question about Josh Simmons. Where's his injury at? Will he be able to play from day one, or will he's going to have to sit? If he's healthy, I think you're going to get a football player that's going to play a long time in the National Football League, and he's going to be a Pro Bowl player and an All-Pro player. You don't go to Ohio State and play at a high level, man, if you're not one of the best in the country. And this gentleman played very well when he was healthy at Ohio State. So all I can say is OHIO, Ohio, the Ohio players, the Ohio State Buckeyes. Back to you, Harp.
Yeah, his 40 time was considered to be great in terms of comparing it to other guys that are as big and heavy as he is right now. His arm span is a little bit shorter than what others would be for that big. But you look at the pictures, come on, man. There's no problem with the guy 6'5" and his arms go down just about to his ankles. That's you're looking for the elite of the elite, and he's just elite. Let's just put it that way, okay? If you're looking for something different, go draft a different guy, and you'll be sorry that you did. So Josh Simmons obviously is the focus here on this specific show that we have. The last one, Vincent, give me final thoughts here that we're not going to have any more draft prospects until we start waiting for the offseason next year.
It's been an honor. It's been a pleasure. I enjoyed every moment of it, every prospect we've done. I couldn't be more blessed to do it with a guy that actually got drafted, that actually played in the National Football League for 11 years. What more can I say? It's going to be sad because we got to wait till 2026 and talk about those prospects, but it's been a joy. And then we're going to end it on a good note tomorrow night with our draft show. So tune in to 100 Yards of Football tomorrow evening. And thank to our fans and to people that supported us over the last couple of months. I want to say thank you. Back to you, Harp.
Well, yeah, you can join Logan Landers, Brian LeBel, Vincent Turner, and myself on our draft show. It'll be starting at 8 o'clock Eastern, right when the draft starts. So our analysis and just looking at the different prospects and the picks, trades, you name it, it'll all be part of tomorrow night's show. But we appreciate you tuning into this draft prospect show, the last one of 2025. Along with Vincent Turner and Logan Landers, I'm Harper LeBel saying thank you for tuning in, everybody, to 100 Yards of Football. And we especially appreciate your attention in the Draft Prospect Show. We hope you have a fantastic rest of your day.